As soon as we do this, a new form will be presented to us. This is called the toggle display form. This is where we can very quickly turn on and off the display of mesh and contours and the contour intervals for individual surfaces that are being created within the project. So as you can see here, we've got our NS contours currently being displayed, the basin, the building pad or building platform, and our development base. So what we're going to do is, just for a bit of clarity here, turn off the display of the contours for the building platform, the basin, and the natural surface, and then click on OK. Now, for any point we want to go back to that form, it's found on the Rows tab under Surface Manager, and it's called Toggle Display. And if we click on that, you'll see we go straight back to the original form. Let's close that form down. One thing that we would immediately need to rectify is the fact that the contours for this particular model are going outside of our site boundary. Because Model Builder models are generated from other models, we're actually able to go in and make some edits to them. So what we're going to do is actually apply a boundary to this particular model to restrict the contours, stop them from going outside the site. So to do this, we're going to go to the Surface Manager, and in there, we're just going to park the Surface Manager to one side and then move the model over to the other side so we can see what's going on. In there, we're going to make sure that we go and find our new model. So BM stands for Built Model, and you can see our development base sitting in there. Obviously, you're already familiar with the Outputs tab, which controls how the surface might be displayed. In fact, if we turn on the mesh, you can clearly see how the software has generated this surface, including these individual grading strings. It's a really good way of seeing how everything's worked out. We're going to turn the mesh off, pop to the Inputs tab, and what we'd like to do is basically assign a boundary. So we're going to go to the Boundaries tab, click on the Add button, and all you're going to do is zoom in to the following location on the drawing. We're looking for the red polyline that we used for the very first grading string. The fact that this polyline is being used for this grading string doesn't matter at all. We can continue using the polyline within the drawing. So we're going to select the edge of the red polyline. We select the type of boundary we want, so we'd like to have an outer boundary now, basically restricting the surface outside of that polyline. We'll set the setting to exact and strike build, because we're rebuilding the definition of the surface. Once you've done that, you should see that the contours have now been restricted to the boundary. To take this one step further, let's close down the Surface Manager form, pop to Model Viewer. Now, you may already have Model Viewer open. As I've said previously, if you have, you'll get a little message and you can bring it up from your Windows taskbar. Now, Model Viewer, we're currently displaying different surfaces. Now, really what we'd like to now see is just our brand new surface instead of these individuals, because they're basically, the model is a composite of these individual strings. We're going to go to the Toggle Display button. Where we've got primary design, we're going to change primary design to now show our development base, making sure that any other additional surfaces are no longer checked on. We're still going to be seeing the base surface though. And then click on OK. And in the drawing environment, we can see the basis of a new earthworks surface that we can design on later on. Whilst the colouring might not be exactly what we're after, certainly the model is. So we might just go up to the visual style and change it to render with edges, and there we can clearly see how the software has modelled this together. Now, as I said, at any point we make changes to the grading string, this model will update. Now, if it doesn't, for whatever reason you're not seeing that update on screen, you can find the following button. So I'm just going to minimize Model Viewer. There is a button on the ribbon called Rebuild Models. Okay, so that's a great button. It'll enable basically the Model Builder model to refresh itself because some of the content within it has been updated. If at any point we want to go in and change the content of the model, we can go back to the Model Builder pull down, click on Model Builder, choose Edit Model, select our model from the list, and click OK. In the form, we can then choose to include and exclude whichever grading strings we want. Strike Build to update the surface. You'll notice that even though we strike Build Surface there, the software didn't go outside the extent of the boundary that we'd given it. And then we can click on Save. At any point you want to remove a model, entirely or maybe want to start again, you can use the Delete Current Model button. That will remove the model and the surface from Surface Manager. You may want to at some point maybe take a copy of a model to start working on a different option or a different stage. You can always use the Save As Model button, which will basically take a copy of what you've done as a new name. Close the form down at the top right hand corner.